Hey there everybody, welcome back to the playthrough. We are back here in the exclusion zone. We're picking up where we left off from our previous episode. Oppie had sent us out on our second excursion into the zone to scan 5 separate anomalies, and we have already completed that objective, but there is still a fair bit of this area left to explore. So we're going to go around, scrap some cars, gather some crafting components, see what there is to see. I would imagine there's a fair bit more in this zone we haven't seen yet. Some new things to discover, some new things to scan, and yeah, we'll gather up as much crafting components as we can and then make our way back to the auto shop. I do have to apologise for the slowness of my uptake when it comes to understanding the mechanic of the radiation damage that I'm taking in parts of the zone. Obviously you'll notice there when I was getting out the impact hammer and trying to break down the power generator or the plasma generator for that arcing electricity tower, I was taking, in certain areas, I was taking very small amounts of damage from the radiation that was in the area, and I just was not paying attention in the slightest. Now, don't get me wrong, I've got plenty of heals, and the game does make it very obvious when you're pretty low health, so it's not like I'm just going to stand there and take damage constantly until I die, but yeah, I just was not paying attention in the slightest there. I was a little bit blind, I was a bit loot blind, let's call it. And you will also notice here that we have come across our first transmuter, so this thing is confusing as heck to get working. I still have no idea how this thing actually works. As far as I'm aware, for this one, it says that it can turn gears into gas canisters, and obviously I'm interested in that, as I understand that a core component of the impact hammer is a gas canister, and I don't think I actually have any spares right now. So yeah, I'm a bit interested in making a few of those, so I've got some spares so that I can craft some more impact hammers when this one eventually breaks. But I have no idea how to get it working. I go back out to my car, I craft a few gears, stick them in, and it just spits the gears back out at me. My relative understanding for this seems to be that that blue icon underneath the gear and the gas canister is something in terms of a cost, so something I need to feed into the machine as well as the gears in order to get it to work, but I have no idea what that symbol means. I haven't looked into it clearly enough. I mean, heck, you'll even notice that I've opened up the logbook to take a closer look at the entry for the transmuter, and I still didn't get anything from it that was useful. Just a little bit of backstory about the impact hammer and whoever created it, but nothing to do with how it actually gets working. So we're going to have to do a bit more research into this one and hopefully discover how these work, because they do seem like they'll be very useful. But yeah, I still haven't managed to work out how to use this one. Okay, time out, time out. We need to take a bit of a break here because this zone is getting hectic. I've nearly died twice now, and don't get me wrong, they were pretty much my own fault. I have learnt my lesson, which is that those arcing electrical towers that seem to send off sparks towards you I thought they were random when I first encountered them. I thought that the direction the electricity went in was just random and that you could approach it, and if you got lucky it wouldn't come towards you. But no, it seems as though if you're stood close enough to it, it will just start coming at you regardless with every single time it sparks off. So we just need to make sure we're timing it correctly so that we're not going to get hit by it when taking out the generator. Although that second one, the one I almost died to again, that was not great because it had 2 generators. I'm not even going to risk going back there to pick those up because, yeah, I don't want to die. We've also encountered a couple of new things as well. So we had the new anomaly, which is the spinning razor blade of death in the ground. With that one seems to be pretty straightforward. As long as we're not in its path when it's coming towards us, we should be absolutely fine. Although I'd imagine that in some future areas, if it's unstable, it might go in random directions, so we need to be paying close attention to that one. There was the weather storm as well, although that didn't do any damage to me specifically. It was more just moving the car around, and it was very windy, a bit difficult to move around myself. So I think we should probably just either stay in the car or find a safe area to get to, and obviously not put the car near any cliffs so it doesn't get pushed off. We also saw, as soon as we picked up the anchor, all of those shaker-like fishes in the ground that opened up and started throwing me in the air and throwing the car in the air repeatedly. We're just going to have to be careful with those. You might want to park the car a bit further away from the anchor, or maybe that's what happens when you pick up an anchor, is that it starts beelining anomalies straight towards the car anyway. I suppose we'll have to test that theory and find out.
Hello, this is Zap, and it's time for a special version of Zap's Douglas Furrier Knowledge Tree Facts. This specific segment is here purely to address a series of written correspondences I've had with a certain Dr. Cocker, and I use the term doctor with the greatest of air quotes. Dr. Cocker, to you and to all who have somehow been unfortunate enough to hear your lectures on biology, I must set the record straight. What is and is not a plant is strictly determined by scientific process, photosynthesis, reproductive systems, and the categorization of cellular makeup. It is not determined by whether or not the thing has eyeballs. What a truly preposterous suggestion. Just because a bird has eyes does not make it not a plant. What of worms? What of jellyfish? Or even the Mississippi River? Your infantile claims are doing nothing more than to further sink the credibility of this peninsula into absurdity and myth, and I will have nothing of it. Good day. And to everyone else, stay safe, keep your eyes on the trail, and leave the forest as you found it.
Okay, so you'll have noticed that I have now decided to bug the heck out of this map properly. I don't feel as though we're properly equipped to be here, or at least things seem to be taking a bit of a turn for the worse. They certainly have seemed to step up in terms of the weirdness, and yeah, I'm just not really wanting to risk it after my couple of close calls earlier. So we were driving along before we had that radio transmission come through, and we went through that new anomaly. Obviously I didn't scan it, but kind of freaked me out a little bit because obviously I started setting off all the electronics in my car, so my horn started going off, windscreen wipers, everything. It's quite freaky. It's even turned the radio on, and I didn't realise that until I heard music coming from it, and I was like, well, why is the radio turned on? So I'm gonna have to try and work out how to turn that off. I guess it's just got a hotkey. Then the radio transmission came in from Zap, who was having a go at some doctor who might not be a doctor, and talking about the way he classifies or categorizes plants as to whether or not they have eyes. So that was confusing as heck, and I can't work out whether or not that was coming from the radio itself being turned on, or if that was just a proximity thing for me on the map. Maybe I'd driven close enough to a particular location that had that transmission coming from it. Not entirely sure. And then yeah, we looted those two buildings, the big tower and then the small like wooden building after it. And then as soon as we left the wooden building, this big klaxon started going off, this big alarm, and I started freaking out. I started wondering, like, you know, have I just alerted something to my presence? Is someone or something going to be coming after me now? So I took that to mean a bad thing and just decided, seeing as though I had the energy on me, the stable energy from the anchors, I was just going to get the heck out and yeah, regroup back at the auto shop and just move on from there. It was just very freaky. Did not know what was going on in this zone this time. We're going to have to plan our drives a bit more carefully next time. I think the one thing that I would change is maybe not picking up any anchors from these zones until we're actually ready to go, rather than just collecting them as we go on. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a pain having to drive back and forth, but I don't know, a lot of the weird stuff started getting weirder when we picked up the anchor, or after we picked up the anchor, so maybe it's a bit of an indicator to not pick them up until you're actually ready to leave. So yeah, we'll try that in future and see how it goes.
Great. I found a stabilized road for you. Ready to make this remnant verification a one-and-done thing? I'm sending you to visit Colossal Cappy.
If that old anomaly doesn't induce electromagnetic resonance in your car, then we're free from Tobias's fever dreams and we can get you out of here. You've got a stable route heading straight to Cappy's front door, but the energy readings are off the roof. I advise you not to take the zone lightly. You better gear up or you may not survive the trip. Which would make my life easier, so your call. Are you making use of my fabrication station to fix up that junker? You should while I'm still in the mood to allow it. And there's the test track behind the garage, if you need to take anything for a spin.
Aha, so I was correct. So the fabrication station does appear to be our system for gaining new blueprints and learning new craftable things. So that seems to be quite straightforward. I thought that was what it was. As soon as we used it the first time and we saw that big spiderweb worth of new things to learn, I was like, yep, this is going to be where we get blueprints and upgrades and stuff like that. So, yep, that's pretty good. And it does appear to use the stable energy to craft them as well, so that's a good indicator that we need to gather as many of the anchors as possible before we leave any zone that we're in. And for this system, the way I'm going to do it going forward will be that in the episodes I'll show you me crafting and learning the new blueprints. I'll even show you me crafting a couple of the newer parts and putting them on, and any of the major upgrades as well. I'll show you all of that. But for the more generic stuff like 4 new doors or new panels, stuff like that, I'll show you the blueprints, and then I'll just give you a quick run through on the start of the next episode as to what I've done during the downtime of, like, in between episodes. It's just to keep the runtime of the episodes down. I don't want to be running on for hundreds of episodes where you've got 3 episodes in the middle of it where it's just me going back and forth gathering basic crafting materials to craft a new door. So, yeah, anything that's not major, I'll just do during the downtime, and then I'll explain it at the start of the next episode. And then all of the major parts, like a brand new engine or something along those lines, I'll obviously keep that in the episode so you can see all the... Just before we finish up today's episode, I do just want to point out a quick boo-boo that I just did, which is that I learned a new blueprint, which was a large fuel can, thinking that that was what I needed for the impact hammer to be able to craft it. And then shortly after making it, or learning the blueprint, I went over to the crafting table to try and build an impact hammer and realised that, nope, it's a gas canister that you need, not a fuel can. You silly amateur. Maybe you should read the text first before you decide to just spend energy on blueprints. But yeah, that wasn't very clever of me. But that is pretty much it for today's episode. Next episode we'll pick up where we left off, probably upgrading some new parts, that kind of stuff. And we'll obviously get started on our next mission or our next quest. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.